Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Facebook Live here with HIAMFT. I am the president of HIAMFT, Dr. John Souza, and I'm here with Danni Gardner, who is the East Hawaii chapter rep. And we are both being joined today by the lovely and talented Dr. Laurette DeMandel-Schaller, who is in Kauai, if I recall correctly. Right,
Yes.
Dr. Laurette? And Dr. Laurette is going to share with us today, out of the kindness of her heart, some amazing information that you started to share with us at our last HIAMFT board meeting. And it was such rich information, I thought, oh my gosh, we need to make this available to more people. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Laurette.
I'm so excited to be with you. It's my total pleasure. I live to share this information because I can save you some heartache, maybe, and help you know what you want to do more and increase your streams of revenue.
Well, that is perfect. Why don't we just start there? Um, we'll just give you the floor, Dr. Laurette. Tell us how to increase our streams of revenue as MFT.
Okay. Um, First, I'd like to introduce 3 words to our work, okay? Because it will impact everything. And they're foreign words, and it's a global world, and let's have peace everywhere. But the point is, these 3 words for streams of revenue are really important. The first is duende. Please, it means to have soul in your work. That all that is left when you leave this planet is what you contributed and the love you created. And if you love and passionately want to do what you're doing, that's, I think work is love made manifest. So mine is service, yours is service. And the 3 words are these. The first is duende, to come from the place of soul, your spirit, your love for what you are doing. And the other 2 are zeitgeist and ortgeist. Zeitgeist is the spirit of the times. San Francisco, 1969, spirit of love.
Yes.
Kuwait today, I'm not sure. Ukraine, I'm so sorry, but we can help. So the spirit of the time is what's going on in your world with your stream of revenue. There's a book out called Somebody Moved My Cheese. And it means all of a sudden, hey, what happened to my job? You know, politics change. In Hawaii, we're so exposed to fluctuations in the market, truly. And so the other word is Ortgeist. It's the spirit of the place. You guys are on Oahu. I'm a neighbor island visitor to this meeting, and I wish to show respect and honor. And the word from Hawaiian that is so useful is hiki no, I can do it. And the truth is you can do anything you want if you love it enough and share enough of you so that other people will accept that it's okay, that you're a safe person. You're not a 5150. Sometimes we all feel like 5150s, that's dangerous to self or other. And certainly in our world today, everyone you meet is treading really lightly on their own trauma. And people have a lot of triggers. And it's so good that Putin behaved today and didn't act out. I'm so happy.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yes, well, today is their day of victory, 4th of July, May Day. And every year that on the 9th of May, they celebrate victory over Nazism and having won over the Germans, the Nazis. And so it's a huge thing. And so, yes, today could have been quite a victory celebration, but thank heaven, maturity and good judgment, discernment, goodwill, diplomacy have won out. I'm so happy. It means we get to have a really peaceful time today, increasing our streams of revenue, because we're going to go into jumpy times here in Hawaii with all kinds of food shortages throughout the world. You know, you sort of have to judge your commodities so you'll have them when you need them here, especially Neighbor Island, yeah? So I come from a place of being more conscientious and hurricane prepared, perhaps, than you guys. And it's time now to help all MFTs to know, no matter where they are in progress of being licensed or how long they've been licensed, that it's a golden ticket. With an MFT license, truly, honestly, I've done the clinical psych license, I've done the all kinds of licenses and credentials. But if you have an MFT license, the world, you can do so much with it. And I want to share with you adjunct options to increase your repertoire of opportunities, because you may not have been pushed as far as I have to make sure you have a living on a small island, because this is my home. Yeah. And so these are things that come up to mind when I want to help you with this. Great. First of all, practice loving kindness. It's a really tiny island we all live on, and the smile you give out comes back to you if you live on an island with only one road. So if I go south to Lahui and I smile and give love all the way, I'm coming back north to my home. Possibly I'll see the same people going the other way because we only have one road. And it's a kind thing to do. It impacts everybody and probably diminishes domestic violence and child abuse on our island if someone was recognized during the day as having dignity or respect, deserving respect. And that may be the trucker that has hauled stuff all day long, and he just wants to know that I give him a nod, he has the right of way, I'll back off. It's his turn. Sure. He's bigger than I am. Yeah. And so after the hurricane, you would I stood in line 5 hours to be allowed to go into a destroyed food land to get 10 items. I chose my 10 items because I'm hurricane prepared. I have everything I need already. I just needed stuff like incidentals that would make my life better at that time. And so when I got to the front of the line, checkout, they said, sorry, these are not edible. You cannot take these 10 things out of the store. You have to take food. And I go, oh, I have my food, please. What I need are these 10 items to make my life run smoothly. And argued, and they finally let me do this. My point is, you do not know when your Ortgeist or Zeitgeist are going to suddenly change. For us, it changed in 12 hours and can happen quickly. So I have a list of really fascinating options that we can work with. First is telehealth. In a rural environment where roads go down, bridges not useful, people can't move, they have to use telehealth because they have to get help or our society will crack. And people are already on the edge, and telehealth gives them the security to call a professional when they think they're just about to lose it. Yeah. And suicide prevention is very important as a stream of revenue, because the more people you keep alive, the more people will still use HMSA. And you want everybody involved to take things lightheartedly, perhaps look at things from another angle. The stream of revenue I see MFTs avoiding is the court. Mm-hmm. The court is a rich environment. And if you go through the steps gently to become an expert, there's no one that the court loves better than a marriage family therapist, because in family court, that's what you're working with. Yeah. And they trust our integrity. They entrust our ethics. Our point of view always is in the best interest of the child. Mm-hmm. And if you approach everything with that ideation in mind, and you're concerned first for our keiki on our islands, you'll have a rich stream of revenue because people will trust you and know that you will, bottom line, not expose people's files, use diplomacy and discretion, when you're doing expert testimony in court, always acknowledge the judge with full honor. He is king in this feudal system of silos of islands. It'd be nice if we could get our paperwork to match between islands, since we have cases that cross them. But that perhaps is evolutionary, and I have a good attitude. It could happen. In the meantime, when you're in court and you do expert testimony, you will be asked a question by a hostile entity, potentially. The first thing is to withdraw and go right to your light, your own light. And you ask yourself, what is the honest answer here? How can I say this diplomatically and with discretion so it won't damage anyone's life permanently? Because you're working with hot topics. You're working with incest, neglect, abuse, trauma, every form of violence and homicide and suicide. And these are things in a tiny courtroom. We have a coconut wireless here that's faster than the internet for sure. And so things leak. And when you do expert testimony, you're asked a question. Go to your light and ask yourself, what is the truth? Get in touch, know what the truth is. Then say, what is diplomatic? How can I say this in a kind, loving way that will not hurt anyone? And third, how do I show discretion so that 20 years from now, someone in this room, this courtroom, will not look at this child and say, oh, they were incested at age 3. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That is painful, hurtful, and damaging on a permanent level. So you must always couch your terms, direct your answer to the judge, and say specifically the honest truth, acknowledging that the full impact of what has happened must reach that judge. They must know what really happened, but you protect the innocent and the criminals. In custody cases that come from other states, like, I won't say, they can come from a mainland states, and you can have like 6 states involved in any case because you have 4 grandparents and you have 2 parents. And perhaps they all vie for custody of that child in some way. When I helped to write the laws for family court, and after they passed, we were asked to write a law for grandparents for their rights. And we did. It was very, very gentle and supportive, since so many of our keiki live with their grandparents. Why? Because their parents may be busy elsewhere, or with their own lives, or maybe in prison, or homeless, or damaged, or incapacitated to be a safe guardian for that child. So the steps that you can take to be a custody evaluator are, first, go visit your courthouse. Know that some courthouses have every room and every space recorded with auditory and visual recognition in a giant room of computers where everything that happens in the courtroom gets recorded. Some hot level federal courthouses that are brand new have rooms filled with computers that acknowledge anything that is said anywhere in the courthouse. Heads up, don't talk. If you do talk, make sure that if it were made public, it wouldn't worry you. Take that to heart, please. Because the courthouse is a place of jesting in the form of, I wish I could say humor, but it's combat. It is combat. And it's combat between the people that are staff, professionals, and potentially your patients, clients, or your own former attorney. Things can happen, things switch. In California, I loved becoming a clinical psychologist. It was working in open and locked units in community and private psychiatric, the community hospitals had psychiatric wings. But the private, like neuropsychiatric hospitals, my favorite was Brea Hospital Neuropsychiatric Center, a private hospital. And so you work becoming by being an intern, and you can be an MFT intern while you're a clinical psych intern. And it's California, 3,000 hours for the MFT clinical psych license. And for the clinical psych, it's also 3,000. And if you want to do clinical hypnotherapy, which is very, very useful in extreme cases instead of lobotomies or other things they might choose to do, that's 250 clinical internship hours. That makes 6,250 internship hours. In California, the medical system when I was there was built on the back of interns, because interns do all the work. Those with the licenses already collect the money and run the hospitals and run away if they get listed as a DOE on a list, even for nuisance cases. Because my point, I'm getting to a point here that's very important to court and to the medical system. If the laws are not written correctly, there are problems that alienate these people. Like in California, on 5150s, which are dangerous to self or other, in the 80s, mid 80s, by law, you had to put someone on a hold. That means they go to the locked unit for 48 to 72 hours. They may or may not have insurance. Brea Hospital Neuropsychiatric Center was very expensive, but whoever was brought there by the emergency vehicles, police, ambulance, firemen, family, strangers, you have a patient show up at the doorstep of your hospital. If they're a 5150, dangerous to self or other, as an intern, my job was to welcome them. Please establish rapport, trust, and the knowledge that you care for them, and let them be at peace because they're going to be traumatized. And so when they would go to the locked unit, and if they were really acting out, they'd go to the quote quiet room, which is a total locked cell that's all padded. So you can't hear what goes on in there. And so the person may be in a straitjacket. They may be Thorazined out, because at that time we used Thorazine. They did. I did not touch the pharmaceuticals ever. Anyway, you never know how dangerous a person is. One of my patients was in that condition. And at that time, we used real mattresses on that bed. He was locked. He was in a straitjacket. The only thing available he had to, and the Thorazine maybe made him more intensely activated depending on his age, because it can change. But anyway, the point is that he ate through the mattress, pulled out a wire, unlocked his straitjacket, unlocked the quote quiet room, which is our only padded cell for super safety, went out a window, AWOL'd out the roof, and was never found again. But the point I want to mention about 5150s was that if the laws are not copacetic to the needs of us as MFTs, then your patient client in any setting potentially becomes your enemy. When these patients finished being in the locked unit, they were angry. They had acted out. They got shut in a psychiatric ward in a locked unit by themselves and were medicated for a long time. And they come out screaming angry because that was the law. But the thing is that the doctors are just doing our job. And then at that time, they would sue the doctors. So you put maybe 23 people will be put on a list of DOEs, which is every person that had any impact or touch or anything to do with that patient in the system walking in that door of the psychiatric hospital or psychiatric wing of a community hospital. So then at the time I was interning before I was fully licensed, my clinical supervisor was sued. And he got so upset that he ran away to, I don't know where, another state, another country. I don't know where he went, but he left me his full practice, hospital and outpatient, all kinds of diagnoses in my hands alone, plus his attorney to sort it out. And I felt unqualified for the situation. And, but that was the least of my concerns because I had to cope. And so I realized from that point on that any patient or client I may work with in the future, no matter how heartfelt my concern and best wishes are for them and desire to help them, they can smack you. And hey, your profession can be pauhana in a snap of a second. So I worked really, really hard trying to sort that out. The one thing that made me laugh was he gave me 2 attorneys for him, a personal and a professional. And the first thing you learn is you never confide to any attorney that you are working with any individual because we hold confidentiality in primary pristine value. We don't narc on our patients or clients and say there are patients and clients under any condition. And so when his attorney called me and said, hi, I hear you're covering for Dr. So-and-so at the 5 hospitals listed here. You do your rounds daily at these 5 hospitals and these 4 clinics. And then you go and cover classes at the university, do your graduate office hours for your students and go work in your private practice at the beach. And you have a heavy schedule. My problem is that we don't know where he went. And he left because we know it's a nuisance suit. And at the end of 2 years, all the does who went through hassle with their attorneys over this, the person, since it was a nonsense suit, they ended up paying $23 to the umbrella clinic. My clinical supervisor finally came back. I learned so much from that if you're gonna, most everybody was leaving California for these reasons and go practice elsewhere because we couldn't work. I could not work in a situation where I'm trying to give care to my patient and I know in a second they can become my enemy. That doesn't work for me at all. So that's why I was offered a job through DOE. They said, look, you have licenses and credentials. Get all the licenses and credentials you possibly can, because sooner or later they'll help you or help someone else you need to help. So Long Beach State University, gold mine. They just lost to us in volleyball, but they have fabulous departments in education, psychology, counseling. And if you don't have the option to go to school in Hawaii, hey, that's a Class A place for getting licenses and credentials in the real working world, where you have to have streams of revenue for a lifetime. And they can give those to you in abundance. And then you use them as things in the world happen, as the zeitgeist and ortgeist changes. I'd like to touch on, anyway, the laws in Hawaii are very important. We have to be very cautious what we do with our legislature and the laws we write. I've given you an example of what can go wrong, right, with California and why so many of us left. DOE was very hospitable to me. They said, look, we need your licenses and credentials to get state and federal funds because of the new laws. Our present counselors don't have high school educations. They're the aunties at the school. You can go to any school you want on our island and be a psychologist or a counselor or whatever you want to call yourself, because we'll honor your licenses and credentials. But the most important thing is you get to choose where you want to be if you'll come work on our island. I go, I'm a swimmer. Can I swim in Honolulu Bay? They go, you got it. We have Honolulu School there, ages 5 to 12, kindergarten through 6. I go, okay, that's fine, because we were housing full families in locked units. And so why? Because fundamentally, that's the unit that needs the care and needs the changes. And that's the unit that's dysfunctional in the real world. And because my clinical supervisor at that time was into making lots of money, and when you work 5 people in one case in the open or locked unit, you make mega bucks compared to seeing them in outpatient. Hello, some of the people that you work for will be very, very high level money makers. Scary too, because in one situation, I noticed, excuse me, let me take a drink of water and calm myself. I noticed nobody was allowed to go into the room where the billing was done. As an intern, I'm trying to learn where all the rooms are and where everything is. And I need to be responsible to make certain that you're billing correctly for my patients and for, oh, well, sorry, no one is allowed in the billing room. Oh, that really made me uncomfortable, because as an independent contractor, as a private provider, my books are open to me and my medical management billing agency, and it's open to the feds and the state, and it's transparent. And suddenly these people are telling me I can't see my own billing. So turns out that, yeah, they were messing with the billing. And so with the money they had made, where the 405 meets the whatever freeway, they had built a giant, beautiful glass iridescent building, mega bucks on bad billing. And I had always submitted everything correctly and checked it, so I had no concern. However, the person who at that time was my clinical supervisor and then became very wealthy later, after I had already come to Hawaii, they acknowledged that he was a criminal, and he went back to Greece and died, because there was no more life for him as a failed psychologist who had embezzled money. And unfortunately, he was very gifted in certain ways. I considering his mistakes, I can't enumerate good things right now, but there must be some good things. Anyway, he died. He left the country, went back to Greece and died because he messed up. Make sure your billing is pristine. When I do telehealth, I use my computer and it is clocked in by the minute. And what I found out was one of the insurance companies, because I did that so precisely, they gave me a lot of extra money at the end of the year. And I said, why? I have a check here. I'm sorry, it's a lot of money. You sent me this big check. How do I return it to you? It's not mine. And HMSA Quest Integration said, well, it's yours. You can cash it. You got an award for being the favorite therapist that gives the most time, helps people recover fastest, and is the most sincere or honest in your work. And so because you put in these extra hours and our patients are telling us that you give them extra time and care, we're sending you a check. And it was like a quarter to a third of my annual income with them. And I'm just going, are you sure? I didn't know this was a policy. They go, no, no one knows. And 2 years later, I got another check from them for the same reasons. I didn't even know that existed. So you will be acknowledged for your goodness, and the people around you that do wrong, make sure that you are doing right and keep your stuff in order. Because when I worked for an agency, I kept telling them, look, you guys are messing up on the billing. Every 2 weeks, you are giving me the wrong amount. I can calculate what you owe me. I'm working 5 contracts for you. Each contract pays differently. Your billing people are sometimes paying me too much, sometimes not paying me enough. And they finally said to me, look, you're complaining too much. Just stop it. I go, but this is money and it has to be right. They go, well, we're doing the best we can. So are you. So leave us alone about this. So then 2 years later, approximately, maybe a year and a half, the agency got audited. And this is my favorite agency. I love working for them because they do so much for the community. And they represent my cares and my values for my people that I care to help. And they're on target, they're good. But then they had to go through everything they'd paid, all their staff members going back in time and redo all their checks for every 2 weeks. But because I had been spot on each time and just been a hassle to them, maybe almost even lost my job over it, I never had any complications. I had already done my auditing. So even if people around you lack integrity or you think they're making a mistake, stay with your own light. Okay, my husband had this great guide in Myanmar, Burma, when it was still open and free a few years ago. And he was a Buddhist monk. And he had spent time in prison for helping the people have a free Myanmar, Burma. And we knew that he potentially would go back to prison if things turned bad, which they did, but maybe he would escape to another country, which he might have. We don't know. But the first thing I asked him Nene, can you please tell us the most important thing we need to know here to survive in Myanmar, Burma? And he said, yeah. He goes, because airport, middle of the night, he got us in. We had no passport, no visas. We were coming from Korea, I think north of South Korea, probably South Korea. And he goes, he had to get us into the country. And so he goes, okay, the first thing is chill out. I go, okay. He goes, go with the flow. And 3, carry your torch. Why? Because the electric goes out here all the time. You always have to have your flashlight. But for me, carry your torch is carry your own light, carry your own integrity, be real with you. Okay, now I want to branch out really far here in a sense, because when things come down and there's anarchy, chaos, genocide, when the world goes really downhill fast all around you, and you need to be a clear-headed person who sits back, gets in touch with their light, puts on a smile from your soul to help, and goes clear. And you just listen. You just listen. And you will hear what you need to do. And sometimes it helps to have a minister's license. If you were a philosophy major, if you were double major philosophy and psychology, if some form of spiritual practice is important to you, whatever it is, there's something good in all religions, in all points of view, there's something good. MashaAllah, may it, God willing. It's good to know the right language for the place you are in. If you know MashaAllah, you will be fine in Arab countries because it means God willing. And in the Arab countries, you need to know that you come from a place of, I am not perfect, only God is perfect. And in every artwork you do, in everything, all service you provide, you bow to the point of view that only God is perfect, and know that you may make a mistake and make up for it if you do. So in all their artwork, you find a mistake. Why? They're saying, only God is perfect. I am secondary and work for the good of God. So if you are in an Arab country, there's like a lot of Arab people in this world, and sometimes in my practice too, be able to make peace with each person, shalom, know the word for peace in each language, and make contact in their language. Hikino, you can do it. You can do anything you want. So I'm getting to a point here that sometimes it's good to have a minister's license. I got my first one in 1979. Why? Because at Berkeley, I took a course called Legalities of Private Practice. And they told me every state that you're in, or every country, you must be in alignment with their jurisdiction and follow their laws. And so find out, first of all, what are their laws to practice as an MFT or as not licensed as an MFT. And Berkeley in the mid 70s was radical. And so they were teaching all of us how to work the system, how to not be oppressed by those in the system that came before us and do not want us to rise and become licensed, credentialed, and in a position of authority. Because there are people in the work situation that have become what they want, and they don't want to help the people coming up. And it's important to help all people coming up. You never know after a hurricane who's going to be in front or back of you for 5 hours waiting for 10 items. So have loving kindness and no humbug with anybody ever. Because 5 hours is a long time to have someone next to you that you may not have made a little humbug with. Yeah. No humbug.
No humbug.
Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
So shy away from it. Be very apologetic. Always find out first, what does the other person want from this situation? What do they want? What are they seeking? What can I do for you? After you thoroughly know, this is a mediation foundation. After you know, then give them what they want. After a hurricane, everything, the clothes are in the trees, but the trees look like matchbooks because they lost all their leaves and it looks like an atomic bomb went off. And all the buildings, you can see into their foundations, and the pharmacy lost its medications, and because it blew away, and your house has no roof and everything's wet, and you're confused. But if you're focused, if you already have all your hurricane prep in order, your life is in order. The next step is, where's FEMA? Where's Red Cross? Where are we going to set up the first counseling center? We had one tree left, one tree in the community center left. And I said, hey, everybody can find this one tree. This is our new counseling center. Everybody agreed. There was no humbug. We could all see it. Okay, so then finally we had tents, and then FEMA came, and the people that are the National Guard were super cool. I really trusted and liked them. My point is that sometimes it helps to have a minister's license, because the people around you may need the services, because there are no other ministers, there are no other people to give them what they need. Maybe they need to be able to say a prayer to bury their loved one. Maybe they need to immediately be married to someone they may not be seeing for a very long time. Maybe they will need for you to help them contact their source of light, whatever that is, to help them start their healing process. Maybe they're going to need you to do triage. Triage is very important. At the Princeville Hotel, that was our sheltering site. My husband had just built it. He was going to have to rebuild it again because it had just been totally destroyed. We woke up anyway. A loudspeaker said, all doctors, all providers come to the front desk. Whatever way we could make our way there through rivers of water, mud, and blown off parts, and 4x4s coming through cement walls, and people everywhere. the five of us came to the front desk. They go, okay, you guys are providers. Yeah. Okay. Who do you provide for? Da, 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 da. Okay, fine. You work. And so everyone had side elements. Like I work for CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. I know what my job is in the community after trauma. So triage is part of that. So they go, okay, you guys each have patients here or clients, and we have new ones. We have a full body burn. A man was on top of the roof trying to close a valve, and all the steam and boiling water covered him, and he's hurt. And each of you tell us what your problems are for your patients, and the five of you decide which will be medevaced immediately to Queens with helicopters that we will get here. So you have a few minutes to do the triage. All people that need care at this time, you already know who they are or that they're here in the lobby. Okay, so we got together, the five of us. We had a dentist. I'm a psychologist, a marriage family therapist, and other licenses and credentials that will help me. Plus, I'm a minister, so I can marry, bury, and baptize when there's nobody else to do it, because those people are going to need those services, because no one else will provide those services. And interdenominational is really important. So we did the triage. All people that I suggested leave from my little package of care got to go to Queens. They were medevaced. Why? Well, no one really wants a 5150 around. Dangerous to self or other. Those guys are going to be out really quick. Yeah. Someone's homicidal, someone's suicidal, someone is actively acting out. They're going to be medicated and they're leaving, because our island has to become harmonious, congruent, and focused so that we get all commodities to the people of need now. And we help those that are pregnant, about to deliver. We help those that are bleeding, full body burn. We help those, we have no medications. Our pharmacy blew away. We have to get these people to a place where they will get them now. I am not licensed to prescribe medications. I do not hand out medications. That's not my thing. You have to be very aware of psychopharmacology and work in teams when you're in the hospitals or a clinic. But I bow to the Kuleana and those professionals. But the full body burn took my heart, and I had diazepam with me, which is a form of Valium. It's the generic form. So I said, okay, I am going to work here as a good Samaritan. You need to calm down. These blisters are coming up. We can't medevac you to until the helicopter gets here. So I shared my diazepam as simply Good Samaritan. And if I get in trouble for that, that was 30 some years ago, so be it. But hey, trauma, you do the best you can with what you have. I headed out. Everybody, I had to hitchhike. I had to go see if my house was still standing. Excuse me, it was only a condo at that time that I was renting. And so my husband, it was moonlight, full moon, when we walked away from the hurricane. No one else was leaving the hotel yet, but we had to go see if our home had anyway, we rounded the curve, and the condos in front of me were gutted, only foundations and nothing in them. And I go, oh my gosh. And I turned around, and our condo, yeah, the upper floors were gone. The upper condo was gone, but we still had our middle condo, and the condo below was there. And so our roof was missing, sort of. Yeah, the roof was completely missing. And so that meant that I had to find a tarp to get an instant roof. So that was my first line of duty. And then my husband said, okay, you know, we can't live here anymore. So you have to find a house for us. We have to find a house. So I didn't know the rules were that you cannot enlist more than one real estate person at a time. So I called everybody I knew, which was like 5. And I go, hi, I have to buy a house. I have to find a house. And so immediately I did this. And the best thing I could do for us was my husband's mentor had done a home where the footprint for him was familiar to rebuild because he knew that consciousness. And so it was missing its second floor and the roof. And so we got half a house for half a price. The best time to go shopping for real estate in Hawaii is after a hurricane or after whatever, because people have to liquidate and they have to do it now. And half a house is better than no house. You can rebuild it, especially with the people I hang out with, which are engineers, architects. Those people do all the building on the island for 40 years. Their stamps are on the public buildings. Their stamps are on the haimaka, or the least humble of homes. I guess my time is up.
We're coming to the end, Dr. Laurette. Yeah.
So be prepared. Be able to pull out a license or credential to help your community, regardless of what is needed. Prepare and do exactly what you love, and you will always have plenty of streams of revenue coming your way.
Okay.
You will always have good karma. You will always be helped whenever you are in need, because that's the grace you put forward.
That's wonderful.
So have fun making money. Just do it with honesty and integrity so that you know it's all yours. You never have to give it back. And practice Bhakti yoga, which is loving kindness. You just practice loving kindness and everything else falls into place.
Wonderful.
And that brings to you wealth on every level because there's no humbug in your life.
Perfect.
Now you can deal with everything. Please get in touch with hospice. If you're a parent has Alzheimer's, join an Alzheimer's group, become an expert in that so you can help your family and yourself as your parent passes on. Work for hospice. You can do groups, 6 weeks groups of journeys into heaven. Journeys into grief journeys, so that you can come back as a professional, or you can help the people in the community. But the drawback with hospice is most people that they have working for them are not allowed to ever open their mouth and give a suggestion because they're not licensed or credentialed. You're an MFT, but you follow their procedure and their rules, which is you just listen. And that's how their groups run. You have a co-facilitator that's also listening.
Yes.
But basically you cannot do any treatment. And for a practice practitioner, that means you have to learn silence. So I give the floor back to you. Thank you.
It's wonderful.
This has been a pleasure to share with you. I'll follow up on anything. I know it's a loose association, but what else is there in the real world during trauma? Yeah.
Brilliant.
So all my love to you.
And
I wish you the best. You're going to be in a world I won't see perhaps. And I'm so glad, because this one's hard enough. So we have to work hard to make our new world better. Yeah. Better in every way. Love it more, cherish it, take more care of it, to teach the keiki, and work with all the peace words in all the different languages, and use the word duende. Have soul in your work.
Beautiful.
Be prepared for anything because it comes down fast.
Thank you, Dr.
And trust in the source. You're only a channel. You're only a channel for doing good. And everything is beside the point. When you have amnesia, you have no ego and nothing to protect. The uncomfortable part of amnesia is everyone you meet and see and know that knows you knows more about yourself than you do, which is unnerving. And
Yeah.
you're sort of tempted to say, can you please tell me something about myself? Hey, my name, where do I live? Anything will do. But unfortunately, when you have amnesia, you don't know what to say because you don't remember what you need to know. And people ask you later, do you remember everything now? And you go, well, you really can't remember what you don't remember. And trauma can create different types of psychogenic fugue. You can actually lose your voice when in fact there's no physical problem, or you can lose your memory. And if it's attached to PTSD, it's called short-term memory loss. But it's not short-term memory loss to you if you can't remember anything. It is wholehearted amnesia. It is blank.
Yeah.
But it's
Dr.
good to
Laurette,
have gone blank
thank you.
because you have no ego then.
Dr. Laurette, we're going to have to wrap up for today, but thank you so much again. Mahalo for your kakua and for this opportunity to just consider some of these things. Is there a way people can get in touch with you in the future? Oh, did we lose you? Oh,
Please forgive me for any mistakes I may have made. Thank you so much, and aloha.
We'll put your contact information in the chat here, if that's okay, Dr. Laurette.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mahalo. And Danni, any final thoughts or reflections?
No, that was a lot of great information. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me share.
And thanks to everyone who watched today. We'll be back next Monday around 9:30. Until then, have a wonderful week. Again, Dr. Laurette, mahalo to you. Danni, always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, John.
Okay.
Thank you, Danni. It's been a pleasure to work with both of you, especially by email. Thank you.